when you were talking after the Lakers games in your press conferences, and obviously, people didn't really want to talk about you guys. People didn't really want to talk about what Jokic was doing. And Pat mentioned earlier, the prime time really wasn't built up for the Nuggets. And even after you swept the Lakers, there was different conversations, and that's neither here nor there. But they weren't talking about the Nuggets sweeping, LeBron and the Lakers. Do you think now that you guys have, put Denver on the map with the championship, being that first team since 1979 to win outside of Texas and California, do you think now people will, not only respect the Nuggets, but will look at the Denver Nuggets as
I'm doing it.
Yeah, like the team in the West now?
Hell yeah.
Well, a really good question. And speaking of the Lakers, I just want you guys to know this is breaking news. I'm thinking about retiring, so don't tell anybody.
You love it, Coach. You love it. Coach, let's take the conversation away from the championship. Let's talk about the coach retiring. Yes. Hey, you hated it, huh? Okay, good. I'm happy to hear
good.
that. You're a human.
Only kidding.
Oh my goodness. Oh, welcome, Chris Williamson. Welcome to the show. Emmy-nominated sportscaster and personality. I got to be on my best game today. I'm with a Emmy-nominated sportscaster. How are you doing, Chris? Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you, and I'm just honored to be here because your greatness personified, with how you operate and everything that you do. So, yeah, I'm just blessed, and that Mike Malone thing, petty season is in order.
Yes. Well, Mike Malone is also very blessed, and the Denver Nuggets, I gotta just tell you, Michael, let me actually say Michael, because he's very clear. He does not want us calling him Mike. So Michael Malone is just, he's hilarious. But he just talks, whether you want to say he's talking his ish or whatever, but throughout this postseason, he's been talking, and then he has the video, and it was a very funny way to kind of say, okay, LeBron, we know what you were doing. But I like that he did it. He says he's joking, but we all know there's a little truth in every joke. And I remember after that, we were all talking about LeBron's retirement. And even though we were LeBron's a genius because he diverted the attention away from the Lakers getting swept, us in the media, we still kept talking about it, despite the fact that we sort of knew what he was doing, because no one believed LeBron was retiring, right?
No, nobody did that. And he didn't even, there wasn't, correct me if I'm wrong, but there wasn't even a direct question that would lead him to answer that. He took a question that was vague, and he decided, okay, here's what I'm going to talk about, as he does, and that's his right. But yeah, people ran with it. I remember the SportsCenter crew after the game, they were like, yeah, the Nuggets, they win the Western Conference Finals, but that might be a subplot because LeBron might be retiring. Bro, he sucked you in. LeBron did it again. He sucked you in just like he does every single time he's opened his mouth.
And we will not let him do that today, because today is about the Denver Nuggets. They are celebrating their parade. I don't know if it's officially ended, but I was watching. I had it on in the background, and, they're rolling through the streets, and the crowd is, chanting MVP, for Jokic, and it looks festive the way parades are. I saw Jamal Murray out there. He was, signing autographs, and look at that. I mean, their first parade in their city. It's amazing. You have to appreciate that. Even if you're not a Denver Nuggets fan, even if you're not in the city, just look at that. It's amazing.
Right. That's gold. And then he hugs the fan. I wasn't expecting KCP to do that. And what's more interesting is the fact that I think he's making up for the fact that the Lakers didn't have a parade, after they won in 2020. So he's going all the way out. And the other thing that's really fun to see with these parades is just the pure joy and jubilation from the players, where they let everything down. They do not care. They're unapologetic selves. They don't have to be, buttoned up, tied up, professionals answering questions. I'm having a great time, and I'm gonna let y'all know, with all these beers that I'm smashing in my face, DeAndre Jordan is catching passes for people for the beers. It's a beautiful sight, even if it's not your team, right? You can still appreciate what that means for a city and for the players that have worked so hard to make it to that point.
You do like that. It's fun. It's always fun watching the parade. But I remember, and like, I'm not going to sit here because I'm not a lifelong Warriors fan, but I just remember like when the Warriors won their first in like just years. It had been years, so many decades. So it wasn't their first ever, but for many current generation Warriors fans, it was the first in a very, very long time. And that felt amazing. And it wasn't even the first. So the first title for the Denver Nuggets, right? The first title for the Denver Nuggets, like, that's amazing. And, you know, the way everyone's been talking has been like, they're definitely guaranteed to get more, you know? So there's been a lot of talk. There's been a lot of talk. They will be back. They're going to get back there. You know, as a Warriors fan, I don't love hearing it, but it's their time right now. So I used to hate when we won and people would start talking about, oh, their path to get there. And, you know, this is not a real this. And, you know, so it's time to celebrate the Nuggets. We're going to give them their flowers. But people keep talking like they're going to get back there and they're destined. And, you know, this is the beginning of the next dynasty. So, you know, we'll see. We'll see. You know, I think usually when there's a finals run, teams react to it, right, around the league. So we'll see what happens. But they definitely are a contender, I believe, for years to come. And they're set up for that. And that starts first, you know, with Jokic, right? I think many even before this finals run considered him the best player in the world, but that seems to be the consensus for many right now. And so it starts with Jokic, and he's the best player in the world. And we're here raving about him, Chris. And he's so nonchalant, you know? What do you make of that?
It's so funny, Nat, because all my life growing up, you know, watching MJ, Kobe, LeBron, some of these guys, it was basketball is the clear number one priority. Family comes second. And I think they've acknowledged that in some way, specifically with MJ and Kobe, rest in peace. Like, you're thinking you have to be obsessed with basketball to win at the highest level. So to see Jokic, you know, act as if this is just a hobby that he's really good at, it's really refreshing to me, because you can be amazing at something, but it's not as he said, the main thing in his life. Like, the main things are his family and horse racing back in Serbia. And I think you don't have to put one over the other, but you can see the beauty in a superstar reacting differently, as if, he just took a trip to Walgreens, picking up groceries for his wife. And it's like, okay, yeah, it's good. We can go home now. The job is done. Like, who does that? Right?
Nikola Jokic does. Nikola Jokic does.
That's it.
He does. And, you know, I appreciate hearing him say that. You know, we know his family means everything to him. His wife, he wears like their wedding band. What is it, like on his sneaker, or he like puts it on? Yeah,
it's on his sneaker, on his shoelace.
Yeah. So, you know, he does that. Look, first of all, let me just say, I always appreciate men giving love and shout outs and flowers to their wives. So shout out to you too, because I peeped in your feed. Wifey got a shout outs.
Yeah, all day. And I got the ring. I got the ring right here, baby.
That is not his middle finger, people. That's his ring finger. Yeah. Okay. So shout out to you and your amazing wife. I see that you'd always be sort of, you know, shouting her out, posting some of your wedding stuff. You guys are newlyweds, so recently married. Yes. So I love that. You coming on the show and you're like, I'm still going to call my baby out. So good for you.
Come on, I'm going to gas her up. Yeah.
And we'll be talking later about people gassing up their wives, but Jokic, he wears his ring on his sneaker. You know, he had his daughter at the celebration and she was like front and center. We always love that. He's not the first person to do that. Like, they always have the kid up there. She had on the little backwards hat. But, you know, the media question asked to him right after is like, sort of like, how do you feel? And he's like, oh, great, the job's done. We can go home, you know? And throughout this postseason, right, it's been questions about like, how do you feel about this triple double? Oh, you made history tonight with this person. And he's like, huh? What? Like, okay, yeah, I don't care. I'm just trying, and so he's very nonchalant. And I don't, first of all, I don't think he doesn't not care. So, but I think for some people, they don't know how to receive it. So some people love it, right? And then I think others, it's like, I don't know if it's off-putting is the right word, but they don't know what to make of it because they're just used to NBA stars reacting differently.
Yes, and that's a great point because when you're so used to something and you see somebody divert from that path, it's a knee-jerk reaction where you're going to be like, I actually don't like that. Where I've seen on social media, the discussion has been in some part like players, superstars not respecting or caring about the game, which is the furthest thing from the truth, specifically with Nikola. If you watch the series, specifically the Phoenix series and this one, there are multiple incidents where Jokic is screaming, yelling with his teammates to get better, to adjust. You don't do that if you don't care about the game. You know what I'm saying? You have to put a lot of energy and time into that to have those type of reactions when you're at the precipice of winning an NBA title or advancing to the next round. So, yeah, and the other thing, Nat, I don't think you should be obsessed with your job, right? Or your passion. It shouldn't define you because then when it's gone, you're like lost. But if you have a healthy balance, and I think we've all experienced this at some point, at least for me, where it's I'm a sports journalist, sports broadcaster, and that's what I'm doing. That's who I am. But when you step back, like, no, I have so much more to offer to the world. And there's more meaning, like with my wife, my family, my friends, different experiences that I want to do just for free. So, right. Yeah, I'm all for it. But to say Jokic doesn't care about the game, that's just flat out disingenuous and not true. I just don't think he cares about the extra hoopla and attention around it. Like, yeah, I get paid lots of money to play basketball and I'm really good at it. And then I go home with my family, which is my true prize. And I go back to Serbia with my family and that's all good.
Yeah. And I mean, Serbia is his love. Riding horses is his love. His family, that's his love. And I can relate to that. I am born here, but my family is Jamaican and I spent a lot of time in Jamaica. And for me, whenever I go to Jamaica, I feel like I'm going home. If I'm away from there for too long, I don't feel right. Like I always have to make sure not too long passes before I go. Right. And I didn't even grow up there, but just because I spent so much time there and culturally, that's how I was raised in terms of family and people being around me, like I yearn to be around that. So I can only imagine not having grown up in this country. Right. And you're here. It's like he wants to be home. And I'm sure it's going to be an amazing. I wonder what they have buildings lit up for him. So I just wonder what it's going to be. I wonder if they're doing a parade for him. Who knows? But I mean, I'm sure, they have more than one, athlete in the country right now making moves. So I wonder how they're going to celebrate that. But it is refreshing, like you said. And right now it seems to be that people appreciate that from him. I wonder if the media is going to continue to appreciate it, though. And I only say that because we've heard them at times when there are players who say that, like there's other things more important, or, some in the media react negatively, like, oh no, you don't care about this. And the only thing I want to hear about this. And they start telling you Kobe and bringing up all these stories of other people. I'm like, okay, but that person isn't like this, Right.
They're not. And that you can't, punish them for being different. It's as if you have to be like the all-time greats, MJ and Kobe, their mentality, Mamba mentality, MJ, Stone Cold Killer. And if you're not, then you're not committed, when that's not true. And so I think, it's a great learning lesson for all of us to unlearn some of the problematic things that we've been told or sold by mainstream media. But the one thing I want to go back to is Jokic's wedding band on his shoe. The fact that he's never, at least to my knowledge, lost that thing, like it's not, his shoe hasn't gone untied. That might be more impressive. That might be his best accomplishment in the NBA, because the amount of time that my shoes untied when I play ball, I can't, it's countless times.
He's a man of many talents. He's a man of many, many talents. And certainly his teammates think so, because after they won it all, I thought Michael Porter Jr. had some interesting comments to make about his teammate and leader and finals MVP, Nikola Jokic. Let's hear what MPJ had to say.
Nikola, I mean, he does so many things for our team. He's so good of a basketball player. Like, I don't really think people understand how good of a basketball player he is. I mean, Nikola, he led us all playoffs with his passing some games, scoring other games. This was a historic run. I don't know how you could say he's not the best big man ever, really. Like, he's one of the all-time great basketball players. I don't care what anyone says. I think he's one of the all-time best players to ever play this game. So to be on his team, he makes it easy for the rest of us. But we got so many good players on this team, man. We're happy we got to do it with this group of guys, because we don't know if we'll be together how much longer. But to do it with this group of guys it feels amazing.
So there's two interesting things that he said here, but I'll start with one of them, and that is about Jokic's all-time standing and where he is and his greatness and as a big man. And so there's been so much talk about this, Chris, about, okay, now that he's won, where does he rank all time? Where does he rank all time? Where does he rank as a center? Is he in the top 5 of the big men? Like, there's just been all this conversation. I know you hate rankings. I know you hate rankings because you even said it in your feed that you hate all-time rankings. Why do you hate them so much?
Well, I can't get all the credit for this, but I take it from Tyler Creator. He was on a show interview. They were talking about how he hates this top 5 rappers of all time conversation that happens on social media. And it's not that I hate it. Hate is a strong word, but I just think you could have more meaningful conversations in terms of, okay, well, who is your favorite center of all time? Who are your best centers that you've seen in your lifetime? Like, I didn't see Bill Russell play. I didn't see Wilt Chamberlain play live. I saw them on YouTube and in DVDs, but I can't sit here and say, yeah, Bill Russell is the greatest center of all time when I don't have the life experiences to support that. I just have clips. I didn't watch him live. So I think it's better, and you get more appreciation for people's differences when you have rankings that are suggesting, okay, here are my favorite centers in terms of style, or here are the best centers that I've seen in my lifetime that I can remember. Like, when you're a baby, okay, no, you can't do that. But as you get older into your youth and adulthood, then you make a better and more nuanced approach. But I think it's fun to have. I just think I'm at a point in my life where I hear it all the time. It's like, what's next? Where does he rank? It's like, bro, can we just appreciate the greatness? Like, I don't want to get into that just yet. Maybe let's look back, years down the line. But yeah. So here are my top 5 greatest centers, basically, I've seen in my lifetime. Shaquille O'Neal. That was somebody when I was, I was born in 91. So I saw Shaq a lot of his prime. And he's one of the most, if not the most dominant big men to ever play the game, like a sheer force of nature. And he also had the agility that I don't think people give him credit for. Nice touch in that 3 to 5 foot range. Won 4 championships. Amazing superstar off the court as well. Hakeem Olajuwon. Come on, man. The dream. His agility as well. Finesse game. One of the best footworking centers that I've seen in terms of his shake and agility. And defensively, the way he would sky for blocks and rebounds. And then on the offensive end, where he would terrorize greats like, as you see in my list, David Robinson. Like, he did it against the best of the best. Nikola Jokic, come on. The dude is like a combination of Wilt Chamberlain, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. You can even throw in Moses Malone in there. His ability to recognize different schemes and nuances for the game, passing. He can step out and shoot the 3 from time to time. Amazing touch. Like, all these players, Hakeem, Shaq, David, they always well, Hakeem had great touch, David as well. But Nikola, his floater, I think, is the best in the game. Because remember, Nat, when KD said, hey, there are times where I hate playing him because he'll throw up shots that look like, yeah, they got no chance. Right, and then they go in, like, all the time. And last but not least, Patrick Ewing. Couldn't get it done in terms of a championship because he ran into Jordan and Hakeem. But he was one of the best defensive centers that we've seen. And he really improved his offensive game when he came out from Georgetown, because Coach Sean Thompson, you know, he was prioritizing defense and staying in the post. He had a really good baseline jumper that was near unstoppable, but he could do just about anything you would want: blocking, rebounding, defending, help defense. So those are my top 5 greatest centers of all time based on who I've seen in my lifetime.
Okay. And again, people, in his lifetime, I just want to say, because people always go crazy with rankings, and I understand your hesitance to get into them. And Jokic was in your top 5. And again, that's based on your lifetime. I created one. What I meant to ask you, can you go back to Chris's top 5 again? Because I wanted to ask you, is yours in any particular order, or was it just like right now? Like, do you have them actually as a 1 through 5? Can we get Chris's list again? Is it a top 5, or is it just like, these are the 5 in your lifetime that you've watched that are the greatest? And I'm not going to force you to put it into a 1 through 5, but I'm just curious.
Shaquille O'Neal is number 1 for me, baby. Shaquille O'Neal is number 1.
Okay.
Hakeem is number 2. And David, you know, I go back and forth between Hakeem and David. They played in the same era, really. And I know that both of them, you know, won 2 titles. David won 1 title in 2003 after Hakeem was out of the league. And then, yeah, Nikola's got 1 championship ring, 2-time MVP. Patrick is right there with him, but that's the list. Yeah, 1 through 5. It's not, oh, I just threw these 5 together and you can interchange them.
Okay.
But all very smart centers.
So I appreciate it, Chris. You hate rankings, but you did them for brother from another. So thank you. Yes. I appreciate that. All right. So I put my own rankings together too. And I did include people that I haven't watched in my lifetime. And, you know, I do think when you don't watch a player, it definitely affects your ability to discuss them properly, you know? And so I understand why you're like, I'm only going to base it on the players that I've watched and observed. And we've heard people start to say that more and more now. And I think that's helpful because it alleviates the whole like, generations that precede us will be like, oh, you guys, you know, recency bias, you don't know, and blah, 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 blah. But just based on, yes, the YouTube videos, based on the data and what's out there, I feel comfortable with this right now being my top 5. I don't think when you're saying all time that Jokic is in that conversation yet, but he's certainly on the way to it, right? And I don't see how anyone could like dispute me or fight me on this list, but they might. And I know some people think I'm a Jokic hater. I'm not, I swear. But I just don't think he's there yet. But I certainly think he's on the way. And assuming that he will continue to get the accolades and build up his resume, then I think he'll get there. And then there'll be some hard conversations, because I got to tell you, I think that when I look to start taking people out of this list, I'm probably going to look at players who people would like fight me over, but I sometimes struggle a little bit with the Wilt and Beal, not just because I didn't watch them play, because I did watch Kareem later in his career, so I'm dating myself a little bit, but it's more so because it was different then. Like they were a different league, and then they came over, and then it was so different. The competition was so different. So I sort of always look at those players, even when I do all-time lists, as like, I kind of like asterisk them out. Like I know that they are all-time greats, but I sort of separate them. So that's a conversation for a different day. But that's my list. So I mentioned there's one other thing that Michael Porter Jr. said that I found interesting. And it was the very end where he's like, who knows if we'll all be together. But we're happy, we want to do this. And I was like, because I think a dynasty talk, Chris, but he would be a big part of their future if they need to stay together. So, I mean, we've been talking dynasty for days. I think the talk is premature. So much goes into play to make a dynasty. But, before we break, what are your thoughts on everyone talking about the dynasty?
Just, again, stop looking for the next dynasty or the next great era for a team. Like, we can recognize their special accomplishments for all that they're worth and not immediately move to, okay, well, what's next? What are they going to do next? Like, I know Michael Malone said, yeah, he brought up the dynasty thing, like the last step of a first championship is becoming a dynasty. And he has every right to say that, but it's extremely hard, as you know, from being a Warriors fan and seeing what Steph and Draymond and Clay have gone through, to become a dynasty. Like, that does not happen overnight. And it's partly, keeping everybody together, but also health. Luck is involved in some cases, right? So that's how I feel about it. Pump the brakes on that. We can get into that when they win, if they win a second title. Correct.
And also, because I don't care, people could call me a hater, but like the Warriors are not over yet, people. So we're gonna just stop talking. The Bucks and Giannis are still in the East, and that's that's one thing I want to ask you about before we go, because Jokic is the best player in the world. Everyone, like I said, that seems to be the consensus. But just this year and last year and maybe other years, it seemed like Giannis was the consensus. And I get like the Bucks had a untimely exit from the postseason, but are you in agreement? Do you feel like Giannis is being slighted? I know that you were very familiar with the Bucks team, so it's like the Nuggets have won, and it's like, okay, now where do we go? Like all these like storylines and things develop from it, and it's like Jokic is the best player in the world, and I'm not going to push back against that. I don't have an issue with people saying that, but what does that mean for the other players who were in that conversation, like a Giannis?
Well, for me, I think my initial hesitancy about Jokic was his defense. And I think he has improved a lot, and he's really good at help defense, well, more so one-on-one defense, and then the help defense a little bit struggling. But what I saw in the playoffs, that really opened my eyes even more. But when it comes to Giannis, both Giannis and Jokic were the number one seeds in their respective conferences. So just because it's like, what have you done for me lately? That's why people are saying this. And yeah, I'm not going to fight tooth and nail about people saying Jokic is the best player. Like, we witnessed a historic performance all throughout the playoffs. So I'm never going to discount him for that or discredit him for that. But I don't think it's as wide open, or I don't think it's very, what's the word? He doesn't have a wide margin against Giannis in terms of being.
He doesn't clear the way it's being made to seem. Right.
What's that?
I would actually argue that conversation is still between Jokic, Giannis, and Steph, the three players who won the last three finals. And so the person who just won gets the crown, and so Jokic wears the crown. And so the new NBA season is upon us. So let's get back and talk about that. A lot of rumors been flying. So Chris, people, stay tuned with us. We got some more NBA rumors to talk about. We'll be right back.
In my opinion, the best big shooting big to play the game.
Wow.
High spot is at the top of the key. You're not hearing me.
So let's start it like this. Karl-Anthony Towns, are you the best shooting big man of all time?
Yes. You don't got to finish the rest of the question. What's the next question?
Yeah. I have my personal intake of who I think the best five man is, right? Conversation was Pat, who you played with Cat, you played against Embiid, you played against Joker. Like, who you think the best big man is, right? And I go, y'all not gonna like my answer. They go, no, for real, Pat, like just like we talking basketball talk, not like Patrick Beverly talking basketball talk. I'm like, all right, cool. Cat, what? My man, when it comes to like offensively gifted players, I say, man, Trev, it's two people, bro. It's Cat and it's James Harden. And I think I got Cat one. No, that Pat, no. I've been around this.
Chris, there's just so many things that were said in that video that I find laughable, but I don't want to spend too much time on all of them. But since we've been talking big men throughout this show.
Yeah.
I just, so Cat's been making this claim about the best shooting big man. I don't know the parameters for him saying that. He talks a lot. He has this,
he does.
When time's up and I retire, there's going to be people who are going to say that I changed the game. Okay. I see a lot of people making fun of him for this statement and like going at him on Twitter. So it's very early in his career. And I remember a time when John Morant said like, I'm a top 5 point guard in the NBA or something like that. It was like an off season. And people were like, oh, okay, Josh, sure. And then he came back and showed us he was that. But Cat hasn't, he'll say these things and then he doesn't produce on the floor. Now, a large part of his season was lost, but I still would not have him as a better big man than just overall big man than Embiid or Jokic. And best shooting big man, I don't actually know about that either. So I just thought this video was very, very funny.
It makes for great content and people to lose their minds. And here's the thing about NBA players and professional athletes. I think you have to have some level of delusion in terms of your confidence to succeed. Otherwise, you'll get eaten alive like roadkill, or the prey. But for a shooting big man, yeah, he's up there. Like he's up there with the best of them, Dirk and all them. Still got to do a whole lot more work to even get that title, to even get close to that title. But in terms of shooting, yes, one of the best shooting big men we've seen from three-point land. However, in terms of just overall big man and changing the game, what have you done to change the game?
Exactly.
There have been big men who shot from long range before. So that part puzzled me. Like what did you change, Kat? And if you can tell me, like you haven't changed anything at this point, and then I hope he, continues to succeed and all that. But it's not true.
No, it's not.
I don't think it'll be true.
I mean, if anything, they're going to be talking about Jokic changing the game, right? And so, and what he does from the center position. So, okay.
And the other thing, Nat, wait, hold on. It's like, what have you been able to do in the playoffs? We've seen him, and I know he's battled with injury before and all that. So I'm not going to, totally slam him, but you need to produce in the playoffs, at a high level to want to even have that conversation about, I changed the game and I'm the best shooting big man that the game will ever see.
Facts. And you know what? I'm glad you said that because you actually brought up a really good point. Because like we're going in on Cat a little bit, but it was also Pat Bev saying some wild stuff and sort of like gassing him up in that video. And I like, look, that's his teammate, but I'm sorry. Like, there's just no way in your right mind you can say between Embiid, Cat, and Jokic that your takeaway is that Cat is the best, right? Like, Cat does not like to play in the post. And Jokic is an amazing post player, right? Like, yeah, there was probably a time that Cat was a better shooter than Jokic, but he's become a much better shooter. His touch around the rim is incredible. And you're not even on his level when it comes to passing. It's like, so, and then you can't keep up with Embiid in terms of his defense and just his ability to be down low and not, because, Cat wants to shoot. He doesn't want to play.
Remember that meme? No. Or remember that post with DeMarcus?
So I don't know, but you're not better than either one of those two guys for certain. And so just there's so many ways we can break it down. So I'm sorry, Pat Bev. Like, I don't think that I know more than an NBA player, but you got it wrong here. But this is what happens in the off season. The podcasts are going and things start to come out, and there's been all kind of rumors. And this Zion Williamson has had so many rumors floating about him. We ain't gonna get into all of them, but the latest
that ain't my cousin.
Yes, no relationship to Chris Williamson. But there's been some rumors that the Pelicans may be willing to trade him. That he kind of doesn't have like a super close relationship with his teammates. He's not around that much. I don't know if that's surprising when you consider some of the comments CJ made after they lost, the playoffs. So I don't know where Zion will end up. We always hear his camp or rumors from his camp about the Knicks. He wanted to go to New York. We know that before he got here. Knicks fans seem to be, clamoring for him. I don't know if it's the Knicks or what it will be, but what do you make of these rumors?
They're rumors. And as you said before, it's the offseason, so there's a lot of rumblings that have so many agendas. Everything that gets published, there's an agenda. It doesn't mean it's bad or wrong, or bad or right, but there's an agenda here. And I feel like maybe the Pelicans have soured a little bit on Zion because of his maybe lack of commitment to the diet. I think I saw somewhere that in his clause, there's a contract clause in his contract where it says you have to stay, I think, below 295 pounds or whatever. So when you have that in your deal, it signals you're not taking care of your body the right way. And I would love for him to stay in New Orleans and be a dog and lead that team to Western Conference Finals with B.I., Brandon Ingram and all them, CJ. But I see a world where he could end up in New York potentially. I know that's been the talking point for so long, but it just keeps getting bigger. The conversation keeps growing and growing. There's more steam around it. So I'm interested to see how everything shakes up. But I want to know from you, if not New York, where do you think he would be a good fit in terms of play? And then also, I guess, the financial part, with trading players and all that.
I'd have to really think about that. I'm not sure because, now that all this on-court drama has happened, right? I think at one time you still would have had, and also he hasn't played that many games in his NBA career. So I feel like the kind of team that would take him on can't be a team that needs him, obviously they would need him, but what I mean, like a team that's like ready to win right now, it would have to be a team where they probably don't have a shot at like big name free guys. He would make a big change for them. They probably have some money to work with. You think of like the Pistons just got James Wiseman, so they sort of have like their big man now, but like, right. I don't know, like Orlando, like one of these up and coming teams that, they're looking to make the next step, but maybe they're sort of kind of good or right there, because Orlando didn't win many games, but they were always like in games with teams. And so I don't know where it would work. Obviously New York seems like the place that his camp would push for. But I don't know because there are just some concerns around Zion now, so we will see. But there's also, there's always like the guards. All these guards are in the news right now for potentially moving teams. And the latest one is Bradley Beal. So I think while we've been on, Shams, just reported that there could potentially be some interest, if a trade does happen, that he would potentially be interested in the Kings, which I'm like, okay. Pairing him next to De'Aaron Fox, they'd still be sort of small. Because who would be going in that? I'm not sure, but
Kevin Huerter, I think for one, and maybe Sabonis.
That's what I'm saying. So they'd be moving off Sabonis because that's the only player I think I could see a team wanting and trading for to get back something, because the rest would just be sort of fair parts, right? So but that's why I'm saying lose some size in that, you know. But I mean, Washington does have some bigs they could trade. So I mean, we'll see. But that would be interesting. Beal and Fox is your backcourt. I would see that. I wouldn't mind.
I would love. Yeah, I'm all for that. Well,
yeah. So I don't know. They'll pull the trigger on that, but you know, they're just all these guards are in the news. You got him, you got Kyrie, you got Fred VanVleet, you have Chris Paul, you have James Harden. I'm sure I'm missing one, but there's just so many of them. Dame, who is not a free agent, but I don't know. We're hearing Dame to the Heat. Kyrie's interested in the Heat. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to the offseason, Chris. We will definitely be able to talk about that more as the offseason actually comes. But let's go. I think we have some company waiting for us. So we won't spend too much time on these NBA rumors.
I love you so much. Congratulations on arguably the best career that anyone has ever had in the history of any sport ever. Let's get this party started.
I don't know of a more dominant player, but as sweet as pie. It's just, you don't find that combination. I would figure someone who's really dominant and just exceptional, just in their own head, in their own world, doing their own thing. But Sylvia is a model of living, looking outward. And that takes a lot of energy. Again, she makes it look easy.
Aww. Welcome to the show, Subria Whitaker, founder of Grow the Game. Let's get to it. Some jerseys were retired over the weekend, and it was just so lovely to watch. But not really a but like, you know, Megan Rapinoe gave Sue Bird some flowers, and some had like a really crazy reaction to it, you know? So, but outside of that, I thought the ceremonies were beautiful. How did you feel about them?
Well, first of all, love me like, you know, and hype me up like Megan loves and hype Sue. So that's like, I'm not even mad at it. Like, I expected it to be biased. People should just know that it's biased. It's wrong, but she not wrong for saying it, you know? Like, she was right idea, right? So I'm not mad at it. I mean, I like the ceremonies. I'm sure you know that, like most of WNBA Twitter, I have thoughts about them being on the same day and just where they happen to air live on TV versus, you know, not being aired on TV just because of, I guess, the way the game fell with the broadcast schedule, but just things like that not being taken into consideration. I'm a little annoyed and a little hurt that we still have to go through this after spending so much time talking about just their retirement tours in general last season. I'm like, oh, we're still doing this, but congratulations.
Tell the audience. Tell the audience so they know. You know, no one's gonna learn unless you tell them.
Yeah, you gotta let it. Come on, you on here for a reason. So speak the gospel, baby.
Yes. I just feel like when we spent an entire season talking about the way that they were being treated in the media, when, you know, Sue can get 4 games run on NBA TV and has a whole schedule and all of this, and it's this great big deal, as it should be. And I'm not saying lessen the celebration for Sue. I'm saying pick up and increase the celebration for Syl so that they're on the same level. So when you have one that is just, you know, ESPNW tweeting about Sue and her jersey, you know, 7 times, but only, you know, Syl 4, I have a problem with that.
Yeah. So, I mean, for people who don't know, because I think many people do know Sue Bird for a variety of reasons, but can you speak a little bit on the greatness of Syl? Because you're not just saying push for her to push for her. Her greatness deserves it.
Oh, absolutely. She is absolutely arguably the greatest center in WNBA history. Like, the accolades are there, the depoys are there, the All-Stars are there, the championships are there. Her resume And if you really want to, get real, and this is not shade or not slight to Sue, because the facts are the facts and the numbers are there to back it up. When you look at individual accomplishments between Sue Bird and Sylvia Fowles, Sylvia's is greater. So for that to be the case, but her celebration and her media attention being lesser than and not even comparable is really unacceptable. Truly.
Oh, that's awful. And that just shows you, Subria, I'm glad you eloquently stated all those things, because they're right. And it's a gross injustice to Sylvia Fowles and other Black women who deserve to be put on a pedestal. And again, it's not saying Sue doesn't deserve to be, but people see Sue as the GOAT, right? The reason why, whether that's point guard or just the GOAT in women's basketball, the reason why is because of the marketing machine that has been around her, that's lifted her up. Yes. The fact that she's a great ambassador to the game, all those things. Where is that energy for Sylvia Fowles? She is a sweetheart from all accounts, from everything, her teammates, her coaches, friends, her dominance on the court. But even she, correct me if I'm wrong, Subria, I think during the All-Star break, her last year, she was like, yeah, I feel like the coverage or the support for my retirement tour has been kind of lackluster or underwhelming. So when you hear that, it's like, yo, the person who you're diminishing, they even feel it. That's awful. And nobody should feel like they're not given the proper respect that they deserve.
I agree. And I mean, and just to be frank, we talk about, bias in the media all the time. Biases exist. We're human. We're imperfect. They're going to exist. So when you have someone like Sue Bird, who was able to elevate and create a media company and Together, and obviously Together is going to have post after post after post because she is one of the faces of the brand, one of the investors, like there would be no Together without Sue. So I expect them to go hard for her. But when Sue is in a position to say, hey, make sure that you are giving her equal coverage, I don't appreciate the fact that regardless of her connections to Together, I can see all the photos, all the tweets, all the videos about Sue. And the only 2 tweets I saw when I scrolled Together's page were them retweeting the Minnesota Lynx page and then quote tweeting a WNBA tweet talking about the retirement, where they linked a video that they did covering her last game last season. So they didn't even put out anything new or create anything new to celebrate this accomplishment today. And so again, I expect there to be a bias, but until the media is able to even that playing field by having more diverse, ownership, more diverse voices who can also be biased for Sil. So that way, one, it's bias against bias, and then it's equal. We're going to keep seeing this and nothing is going to change.
Yeah. And just so people understand, like, this is not, because people will often say like, oh, is it always about race? Do we got to make it about race? And I feel like during, even like the college tourney, with like Angel Reese and Caitlin, and people like, I would see comments like, shouldn't we just be happy that women's basketball is being talked about? Like, why do we? No, we shouldn't just be happy, because the way that Angel Reese, a Black woman, is described and talked about in the media is different than Caitlin Clark. So this goes throughout throughout college level and at the pro level. And, Kelsey Plum, a white player, has called this out, and she's a very beloved player who people know, who's on the Las Vegas Aces, where her own teammate, A'ja Wilson, who many would say is actually the best player in the league, but you wouldn't know that because of the way that players like Brianna Stewart are marketed and others. It's being called out because we want people to know, right? And so again, I think it's important when you say, it's not that we're saying less for Sue Bird, we're saying promote the others, because part of the reason, if you don't have the exposure and you don't know, part of the reason you think she's the greatest and best and go is because you don't have the awareness of some of these other players, and there seems to be disparate treatment between the way the Black players are described and the white players. And we're just going to call a spade what it is on the show. Yes. That's what we do here. Okay.
No, that's facts.
Subria, do I get the approval for what I just said? Because I want to make sure. Because
Yes. Yes. Approved.
Okay, so let's lighten the mood a little bit. Let's talk a little NBA. Lord, WNBA. Don't give me the dirty look, Subria. After I did good. Let's talk Let's talk WNBA All-Star, because the early fan votes came in, the early results came in, and Connecticut, their fans felt disrespected, Subria. And I saw you and our girl Tarika, who's definitely someone who comes on this show as well, had like a conversation about this on Twitter. But no Sun players in the top 10. What do you make of that?
I think that it's fan voting, and respectfully, you have to have the fans, and you have to have the fans who are willing to vote for you as many times as possible, from as many devices as possible, as many days as possible. I mean, that's why there's fan voting. If you have a problem with that, luckily for you, it's not all based on fan votes, right? It's 50% of the fan votes and the tiebreaker, and 25% goes to media and 25% goes to players. So it's going to balance out. But at the end of the day, if this is who players, want to see, similar to what you just said, you have to put them in front of us. So it's going to be those with the college fan bases and whose college teams are tapped in on social media. It's going to be the teams who are putting them in front of everyone's faces the most, the connections, community outreach, the brands that you work with, the partnerships, all of those things, in my opinion, matters. And you have to do your part to grow the fan base, because your game can speak, but it can't do it all by itself.
Are either of you surprised that Alyssa Thomas is 17, though? Like, do you think she will make it?
Oh, she's going to make it.
She's going to make it. And that's, you have the media and the players. They're going to vote for her, right? But I mean, also, outside of a whole lot of issues, listen, Alyssa Thomas is a dog. And so if she's dogging everybody else's favorite player, they fans not voting for you. So that's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, Subria, it's been so wonderful to have you on as always. We did want to talk some more power rankings, but we had an important discussion at the beginning that I think was worthy and deserving of time. So thank you for shedding light on such an important topic. And you got to come back and talk power rankings with us. Just very quick before you go, should it be the Sun at the top or Aces?
Aces.
Okay. Thank you, Subria. Chris, thank you so much. Your brother from another co-hosting debut.
I am so honored to be here with you. It was a pleasure. We had a lot of fun. Just wish we could talk about more things, but hey, we had a great discussion, so it's all good.
You'll be back to do that. Thank you. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Go take in some of that Nuggets parade, y'all. Tomorrow.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.